Hello, you're very welcome to another episode here of the Finalwhistle.ie League of Ireland podcast. I'm your host, Kieran Callan, and I hope that you're going to enjoy an action-packed programme here this evening. We have got Brian Gartland coming up to speak to us later on in the programme, and before that we have Darren Murphy of Cobh Ramblers. But before that, we're going to talk to Diarmuid Kearney of Finalwhistle.ie and host of Around the Grounds, where he's going to have a chat to us about reviewing last week's fixtures in the League of Ireland season. Diarmuid, you're very welcome to the programme. There wasn't a Premier Division matches because of the international break. We just had First Division games to look at. So first and foremost, let's look at the results. Bray Wanderers drew 0-0 with Wexford, while Cork City had a comprehensive win over Athlone Town, which was 4-1. Longford Town had a big win against Galway United. It was 2-1 there, while Treaty United defeated Waterford 2-1. Some surprising results there, it has to be said.
Yeah, I suppose, the likes of Galway, that was Galway's first defeat of the season. And, it was a bit of a relief for Cork to say that, our closest rivals have ran aground. They're 3 points ahead of them now in the table. They do have the game in hand, though Galway do have the game in hand over them in the long run, however. But it was a good result to them that they have that little bit of breathing room at the top of the table. Big win as well for Treaty. I suppose that result caused a bit of shock to say that, Treaty picked up a big 2-0 win. Their result the previous week, they were completely ran ragged by Cork at the Markets Field. And, I know that there was the red card in the game for Waterford, but in the grand scheme of things, I don't think it changed much. I think Treaty looked a very solid outfit. They looked like a team that needed to pick up the results. Big result for them, but of course, it gives Galway and it gives Cork the chance to get a bit of breathing room. But for Treaty and for Longford last week, it was a case of we're back up into the playoff spots. This is where we want to be, contending for a title. And I did say it last week on the podcast that the Wexford and Bray game could be one of those games where it's a goal fest or a 0-0 draw, and it became a 0-0 draw in the end. And I suppose not the result either team wanted, for Wexford being the surprise package of the year. They wanted to get points and to continue their charge, but of course they've been knocked out of the playoff spots now by the likes of Treaty and Longford, and more misery for Athlone. It's been the case of it, 5 straight defeats, not where they wanted to kickstart their season by any means. And for Cork, I think Cork have been the yardstick so far. I know they have suffered defeat at the hands of Galway earlier on this season, but they've been a very cohesive unit. They've been clever with how they've played so far this year, and they definitely look the early front runners to go straight up, I think.
When you're looking at the results that happened last week, the Treaty result kind of sticks out an awful lot with me, but also the Longford one as well. It kind of shows that while there are teams who think that, like obviously Cork, as you said, they're the yardstick, some teams are just not going to get their own way. And that's going to be very, very important as the season goes along. There's still going to be an awful lot of twists and turns. And that's what's making, I believe, this First Division season. We haven't even touched on the Premier Division yet, but the First Division season has been so good so far that there's going to be these surprise results along the way that are really going to make it so interesting when you get into that kind of heavy September, October time.
Yeah, I suppose what we've seen is nearly everyone can beat everyone else in the league. Cork lost at home to Waterford, went away to Treaty and beat Treaty, then Treaty beat Waterford. And, you can kind of say, there is the favourites. You can say, Waterford, people might have said, Waterford should have swept Treaty aside last week, but Treaty stood their ground, got their 3 points, a great result for them. Fantastic game to watch as well. I don't think there should be a lot of that talk this year, to be honest, in the division, because it's been so competitive. Anyone could beat anyone at the moment. Longford and Galway, that was a big result for Longford to get a 2-1 win against Galway, who are chasing the top of the table. Longford haven't had the best start of the season in terms of game time. They've only had a couple of games. They will have some games in hand to play. Will that cause a bit of issues with fixture congestion? It'll be hard to see with that in that regards, but it's definitely been an enjoyable season in the First Division to watch. The quality of the football has been great. Support has been great. Watching the different teams playing at home, the atmosphere for the First Division has been great. And long may it continue, definitely for the First Division teams. But you will look at the table, you will say, Galway, Cork, Waterford are still amongst the front three, but Longford get another big result this weekend. Treaty could get another big result this weekend. Waterford could go down the table again. It's very hard to call this division so far in the early weeks.
Let's look at the standings so far. You've got Cork City, who are on top with 16 points. You then have Galway with a bet with a game in hand. They're on 13 points. Then it's Waterford, Longford, Treaty. Like, when you look at it, like, you've got 4 teams there that are on 7 points. You've got one team on 10, one team on 13, and then obviously Cork on 16. Like, we're talking about this. We've been saying it all season. Like, there's nothing separating these sides at the moment, and it's only going to get better. But those playoff positions, a bit like what happened, I think it was 2 years ago during the lockdown, where the first division title kind of flew into lots of, it was at one stage it was going to Cabinteely, the next minute it was going to the Midlands. Like, the playoff positions, it seems, won't be decided really until the following day, until nearly the second to the last day.
Yeah, I suppose it's very hard to call it at the moment, because obviously, Galway are in second place, they're leading the top of the playoff places, but they could go up as league champions, and Cork could go in there. Waterford could have a sensational second half to the season and they could go up, or Longford could find their feet. Those couple of games in hand, they could go top of the table. It's really hard to call the playoff positions. I suppose, going into it last week, you would have had Longford and Treaty outside of the playoff places. They picked up big wins last week. Now they're in it again.
Mm-hmm.
Treaty, of course, are playing at Athlone this weekend. That result could see them stay in the playoff places, depending on the results elsewhere as well. You have the likes of Cobh as well, who could challenge for playoff place as well. It's been very difficult to call the results, and it wouldn't surprise me if we had the scenario where we are doing around the grounds on the final night, and at halftime 2 teams are in the playoff places, and by full time they're not in the playoff places. It is very, very difficult to call this year, to be honest with you.
But even when you're talking about, teams that are in those playoff places, Longford have gone through thanks to the playoff spaces. Waterford obviously were relegated last year. They don't really want to go through that playoff, so to speak. I know one team goes up, but it's very harsh on the rest of those teams that may be just on par with them, and yet they have to really kind of dog it out to try and get promoted then.
Yeah, I suppose with only a couple of places in the Premier and the First Division, it's very tough on, when you look at the league table so far, you could definitely say four of the top 4 teams could definitely put a good shift in the Premier Division if they were given the opportunity to. It is tough when, and even saying that, you win the playoffs, you go through to the playoffs, you go into the relegation playoff then with the team who's coming down from the Premier Division, and then it's a case of you could lose that game and it's back to the First Division for you lads next year, and go again. We saw UCD went up through it last year. Waterford, of course, are the team that went down as a result. As you said there, they don't want to go through the nerve-wracking fixtures that are those games in the playoffs. And for Treaty last year, they made it to the semi-finals. I suppose that was a big result for them. But if they could have made it to the playoff final, it is heartbreaking to lose the playoffs as well as that. There's still no guarantee that you win your playoffs and you're going straight up. There is that the boginess of taking on a team like maybe Drogheda or Finn Harps in that regards. But I do think that I don't know if there should be maybe this idea of a change in the structure of both of the leagues that maybe make it more than the 10 or so teams that are in the Premier Division, and give a few more. Or is it a case of we go 2 up, 2 down, like I guess normal, but you have those, like there might be a couple of extra places as well that you could say, right, top 2 go up, and then there might be a third team. It all depends on what the case is. It may be for that, but it is heartbreaking to say that the teams can battle it out now for the playoff places. We're in the playoff places. If you lose the playoff places, it's just a case of going again next year. But there's still no guarantee that we could be talking Waterford, Galway, Cork, whichever of them they're supposed the early front runners in the table as of right now. one of them will go up, obviously, as the league champions, but for two of them, it could be a case of defeat on the final day, or could there be the playoff final? But it is, I suppose, it is a heartbreaking scenario for both of those teams, to be honest with you.
Just the final question before we wrap up, and I know that you'll be coming back in later on the programme to preview next week's fixtures. There's been a lot of talk, and I know that Stephen Kenny even mentioned it, that the lack of kind of a regional representation in the Premier Division. But you're looking at, Cork have a possibility of being represented, Galway, Waterford. I'm just thinking kind of out loud here an awful lot. You really need to kind of have that how would you say, that Munster representation would be so important in the league, in the Premier Division next year.
Yeah, I suppose definitely every provincial area should have that representation. I suppose, for the West, it's mainly Galway, to be honest, that have been the front runners for that region to be a team, and I suppose they want to promote their region, but to do it, you want to go back into the Premier Division. You want to be a top team in that regards. Cork were flying for a few years there. They were, promoting football down in the Munster area, and Waterford were doing the same. And both teams, in that regards, of course, I could keep completely forgot that Sligo are also in.
Yeah,
the West.
We keep forgetting about poor Sligo.
Just dawned on me there that Sligo are also in the West. But you know what I mean. In that regards, you want a contingent, two teams for a province that size as well. The Munster clubs are battling it out there in the first division. They're still promoting the region at the same time of doing so. But when you look at the Premier Division table, there's a lot of, Leinster representation.
Yeah.
You have the one team out west, but in that regards, I suppose Stephen Kenny is definitely right that you do want those areas to develop. I suppose we want the grassroots to be developing, and if you have, Cork City, for people in Cork that are in amongst the city, that there is Premier Division football there week in and week out, that they can strive to want to be in that division, same as Waterford, same as Galway, wherever it may be. But definitely, the crowds that have been going to the first division games, the standard of the first division has been phenomenal this year, as I've said already. But the representation is there already, but for sure everyone wants to go back up into the Premier Division.
Thanks very much, Darren. We'll see you later on in the programme. And coming up next is an interview with Cobh Ramblers manager, Darren. I'm delighted to be joined by our next guest. It is Cobh Ramblers manager, Darren Murphy. Darren, you're very welcome to the programme, and thanks for taking the time to speak to us.
No worries, you're welcome.
Darren, just to start off, a difficult result last week against Bray Wanderers, a 1-0 loss, but you'll take great comfort from the fact that some of your results you've really improved on since the beginning of the season.
Yeah, look, again, football is tough to take at times. Obviously, losses aren't something you want in football, but they're something that happen, and you have to deal with them, and you have to learn from them. And sometimes they can be good learning points for players, managers, coaches, and clubs. Yeah, look, it was a good game. The performance was, good from us. I thought we were very good. We created a lot of chances, didn't take them, obviously. And unfortunately, sometimes if you don't take the chances, you don't win the game, because goals win games. But no, I said, look, I'd be more worried if we weren't creating chances.
Darren, do you think at this moment in time, with the fact that you have put in some good performances, although I think maybe the score lines that in some of the games aren't reflecting Cove's performances so far this season, do you think that at some stage, that click, as they always talk about in football, when things start to click, do you think that's about to happen and Cobh could start rising up that table fairly sharpish?
Yeah, I think, look, we have an excellent squad, and there's some good lads, and obviously some young lads, some experienced lads, and coming together. It's a new team, it's a new environment for some players. It's their first League of Ireland experience, and no, like as I said, no one has got into R11 and not earned it, and the performances have been good. There's just some minor changes that we might need to do or adapt. But then it's tough in a way, like, you're looking at it, and again, this is football. It's the open kind of environment of football, is that I'm watching England and Switzerland play last week, and the ball comes in over the top of centre half's head. Striker heads it in. You're thinking, if I was looking at that in my game, I'd be thinking, right, the centre back should have kind of opened his body there, or taken a step back, or headed away. And I think sometimes we concentrate on the negative too much, or that's the fault of the goal. And look, goals happen in football. You could look back over a game and say, like if the ball went in the net that time or that time or that time. But I think look over a league period is probably when the best team comes out, and that's why there is leagues. So we probably have to look halfway through and assess how we're doing then in our form, and then maybe kind of change things if we need to. But I think, as I said, like, performances have been good. There's small minor things that we need to work on and look at, it's defending midfielders and attackers, but again, we can't ask much more from our lads in effort. They've given 100%. I couldn't say once coming off a pitch we didn't give everything, and that's great thing to be able to say about your team in general. And even looking at the Athlone game away, and to win the game in the 93rd minute, I know it was a kick for Athlone, but it was some, we looked at it the other side, is that we kept going to the end, and we've done that every game. Even when we've lost, we've kept going, we've kept trying to create, we've kept trying to win that game. And that's all you can ask of a team. Yes, hopefully it clicks, and not just for our sake, it's for the players' sake and the club's sake. And we'd love to see that, because we probably see the amount of work that they do off the pitch. That we are a really fit team. We're really fit and strong. It's a young side, inexperienced, but again, we do have that bit of experience on the other side of it as well. We do have experienced players, and they're helping these lads, become established League of Ireland players, and I'm sure they will. Because you always look at players, and if they are putting in the effort and the time into League of Ireland, that they kind of want to go on in their own careers.
Just we've spoken about this. We have spoken to both other players and management in the first division, and there's kind of this talk of the supposed big three, the Waterford, Cork, and Galway trifecta, so to speak. That they're full time. There's plenty of resources, but the one thing that I will always say about Cobh, and I know this from my experience of going down there to games, it's a small club, but it's a small club with huge potential, and it's just kind of, sometimes it's just been squeezed out a little bit. Would that be a fair assessment of things?
Yeah, look, it's no no hidden secret that it's a small club, but you look at the amount of work, and you're talking about potential here. The amount of work that's gone in over the last couple of years to turn that club into what it is now, is outstanding. Like, from the people behind it, it kind of gives a real sense of the community then as well, and they want to be known as a bigger club. And again, like, you look at it, there's only 19 teams in Ireland, in this top tier football, and Cobh is one of them. So they've got to be proud of that, as well as a club, But I think there's improvements need to be made. Obviously, when you're coming in, I'm looking at, you're talking about the big three, and they're full-time teams, and there is a difference. And if you don't cater to that difference, you're going to get left behind. And look, obviously, over 90 minutes, a team can match a team, but this is where the league table comes into effect, and you look at it at the end of the league table, what the results are. Like, there's no point in taking 3 points off one of them teams and not competing with them then, for a spot in that league. And I think that's where the difference comes in. I think that comes around strength and conditioning, diet off the pitch, what you're doing off the pitch, the effort that you put in. Like, are you willing to stay in, as a footballer? Are you willing to stay in and work on your trade? Are you willing to kind of learn? Would you rather watch Man United play on a Sunday rather than watch your own game and see what you did? All those factors come into play when you're kind of part-time. It probably mightn't suit the full-times, probably can actually take a step back that way, even though probably most of them don't, because they're probably in a full-time club for a reason. But, they're working on it every day. and that's the difference, is that they're able to watch their games back. They can take an hour and a half, no problem, during the day, watch the games back. Coaches can do it as well. They could watch 3 or 4 games in a week, and same with players at times, what they want to work on. They have a whole week to do it. Their strength and conditioning comes into that. They know their lads are doing it, and they're on site doing it. And that's the thing that you need to match. But we need to match that, I think, as a country. I think even our younger players needs to come in, because it's happening in other countries, and from a young age. And hopefully, we don't miss the boat here. And within 5-6 years, it could affect us at senior international level,
You came in as interim manager, if I'm not mistaken, midway through last year. I actually read a fascinating book a couple of months ago about, how managers go in, and, how the first 100 days or so to speak is very, very important. Did you, in your first kind of period at the club, did you just do an observation of the club as a whole and the players as a whole, or was in your idea that there needed to be swift changes or any kind of quick changes in order to get the ball rolling, to stamp your kind of authority on what you wanted as a football club?
No, I don't think you can do that. You can't come in and do like a hard stop to what's going on. And there was good work done previously. There was a good coach there was a good manager there. Obviously things didn't work out, and that's football, and we all know that happens. It could happen to any of us, and it wasn't a case of you're coming in and just changing everything 180 degrees. Like, it's we brought in slow changes, and we had to, as you said, assess what the squad was, what guys needed, what could we do to improve it or get better results. And kind of it did work towards the end. We had to actually put in an extra day. We put in and it wasn't straight away. It was after a couple of weeks. It was put in a Monday night of strength and conditioning, and it paid off. We got fitter. I think we had about 7 or 8 injuries or something when we first came in, and then we'd none. The last 3 games of the season, we'd everyone to pick from, and that's a huge thing in a first division club as well. Is that you have your squad to pick from every week, and things like that. And I think, look, with new ideas and new innovations, it's not going to suit everyone. And I don't. I kind of look at that in football in general, is that you can't just bring in a rule and something to do at the top. It's not going to suit everyone all the way down, And we try to work with our players. Obviously, there's jobs, there's relationships, there's families, and they're not full time at this, so we have to kind of work around that. And it's not a case of me saying everyone's there on a Monday night, or you're sacked, or you're gone, or get out of the club. It's, you have to work with guys, and we might have to give guys a GPS vest on a Sunday night where he does that work and returns it, and he has done the work. It's not a case of he hasn't done it, So no, I think there's workarounds everywhere, and we try to be open as we can, and try and suit everyone, and at the end of the day, look, we're all going towards the same goal. So just that to me is the ultimate one, is that, like, we're all in this together. We spend so much time together during the season, and let's just all be on board, like.
You went to Stevenage in 2008, and you came back, obviously, back into Ireland in and around 2014. So you would have had plenty of years in England. From speaking to other players, they said that there's been kind of a quantum leap in the game over here, and the fact that there's more tactical vision on how the game is played over here compared to what it was. What was the biggest thing that you took away from your English experience from playing at the likes of Stevenage, Port Vale, Macclesfield, those kind of clubs, that you could translate now into your management role at Cobh?
I don't think it's the biggest thing. I think it was kind of a career of learning, and it's not just England as well in football. I've actually come into a workplace where for the last couple of years where I've probably learned a lot as well. To help me in management, and it's kind of just your environment and what way you set up. If I looked at 10 years ago and you said, oh, like, you'd be a manager, I would have started laughing at you, and other people probably would have as well. And I just wasn't that type of person. I think whatever environment you're kind of set up in and what kind of way you go in life, that brings, you know, experience. And from England, I would say, you know, it was a big step up for me, even just as a player going over there, to see the fitness of guys, and that was huge. They were really fit. They're really good. I probably thought, coming over from, you know, the Premier Division here, and I went to the conference in Stevenage that time, and you probably think, like, you know, the quality of player, but the quality of player was very good. Like, it was top standard. A lot of, and maybe I hit it just as a good time, because a lot of our players would have gone in to play Premiership or Championship and stuff like that. And it was kind of staying fit was the thing. And I think if I look back now, education around your body and your fitness is huge for a footballer. And I see a lot of players, like a lot of Irish players that go to the UK, break down, get injuries, or retire early. And it's because probably of the demand over there from, you know, what you're coming over from here to the UK. And the quality, I think, doesn't, like, you have footballers that have quality, you know, and we're not short of that, you know, or ability. And I think just at an overall level, we're kind of, you know, we get a bit of, you know, our tenacity from the GA, and we get a bit of our identity from the GA. And I think it's a great thing that, you know, we have that as a country, because I think when you go to England, you know, that's what they like out of Irish players. You know, they'll work hard, you know, they'll work all day, they'll go through you in a tackle, or, you know, they can play as well, you know. And obviously we have individual guys as well who are talented, like even Damien Duff there was an outstanding winger for Chelsea, you know. And but I think, like, the idea of us is not, needs to be lost, but we need to I think definitely get better on education of body earlier, you know, like, and what how we can get fit, or how we can treat injuries and stuff like that. Like, even when if I knew what I knew now, you know, I think my career would have gone on longer. And I try to take that into learnings with lads. Obviously, the training and the training methods, and, you know, the way the coaches were, the managers were in certain situations, or, you know, what way we played, and, you know, playing against other teams and being in different environments helped as well. And I think understanding as well is a big thing. You know, discipline is huge. You know, I wouldn't have been the most disciplined player in my time in Ireland, and, you know, I went to the UK, and I was disciplined, you know, and the manager disciplined me, and, you know, it made a huge difference in my game as well. And you know, I think you kind of have to, because you go away from your home, and you kind of have to kind of grow up a small bit as well. And, you know, and it did teach me, you know, how to grow up and become a person, and become like a more kind of an independent person, I suppose the word I'm looking for. Definitely helped as well. But no, I really enjoyed my time there. Obviously came back from the UK with a lot of knowledge, you know, and it really helped me, you know, going on, not just in football, but in my life as well, to, you know, have that ambition and get into the workplace again. And that's even tough in itself, you know, for guys, because basically you're going back in, you probably think you're a failure, you know, and it's not the case, you know. It's not the case. It's, you know, it's a football career, and it happens and stuff like that, but that's what's going through your head when you're going back in. I can see why a lot of guys fall out of, you know, football and kind of do nothing, or kind of, you know, get stuck in a rut and stuff like that. Because it is hard, it's difficult. But again, it's learning and taking yourself out of the comfort zone and getting back into the workplace, and getting back into, again, a totally different environment with totally different people. And like you kind of, you know, I've done a couple of courses and stuff like that over the last couple of years, and they've helped as well. So lots of things, lots of life experience, I suppose, put it down to.
Just a final couple of questions. Just when you were talking about that there, you know, you're talking about experiences and different things. There seems to be at the moment, particularly with the way that Brexit has happened, is that young Irish players, first of all, are either staying here, they're getting their education, and they're getting League of Ireland football, or there seems to be now a branching out that they're going to European countries. There seems to be this thing now that they all seem to be heading to Italy. You know, this seems to be the new thing. Do you think, though, that for young players, that I know that, like, there was a Cork player went to AC Milan in recent weeks, Do you think, though, that is going to benefit Irish football in the future? The fact that they're going to how would you say, what is perceived a more technical league and a more technical footballing environment?
Yeah, it's a hard one to answer, because again, look, the one rule doesn't fit all. That player, going over to AC Milan, yes, he could come technically better next, Maldini of the world, and an Irish Maldini, hopefully. And but it might not work out for him there either, or any other guy. Everyone's in different scenarios, and it's a difficult one. And I would stress the fact that I hope we don't kind of put a plate on it, like, a lot of people would have an argument: stay here, you get a college degree, you get a job, and then you go into football and you've got everything. That might not necessarily suit everyone either. That wouldn't have suited me as a player, like, and it might not suit each individual. So I think we need to look at the individual and how they go about that. I would like to see players going over there that make sure that they, when they do go to these countries, that they do get educated on football, and someone checks in with them to say, like, are you doing your work? How's it going over there for you? Like, are you getting on okay? Like, just even someone to talk to or something. And I know a lot of players have support anyway from their parents and families nowadays, and it's a lot better. But some might not, and even some of the parents might not be educated as well in football terms, as in, like, what it takes to go over there and be successful. And I think that's the kind of elephant in the room at times. Like, you might go into a dressing room of young kids and kind of say, hands up, who wants to be a professional footballer? Look, they're all going to put their hands up. And then, you ask questions like, right, how many of you are willing to not buy Christmas presents this year and save your money and, towards your career? And, less hands go up. Or, like, miss Easter, not eat any chocolate. And again, look, it's not a case of you can't eat chocolate, but just using an example. But it is that kind of thing. Like, when you get to those, environments, is that, like, you have to give up a lot to gain a lot. And I really think it's just down to the individual. I don't think you can put an answer on that, whether it's going to be successful or not, or for the country in general, or anything like that, or even in country. You might have a player here that might play, at a local level in Munster Senior League for 20 years of his career, and 22 he's the best player in Ireland. And it's just that's the beauty of football as well, and that's, it gives that chance. But yeah, I think, look, learning's definitely, I think, in individuals, and whether it's League of Ireland or it's AC Milan, that the player is, given that opportunity to learn and be educated, and, given the right environment, and also tested in the right environment.
Finally, Darren, you got Galway this weekend in your next league match. Reunion of sorts, another Cork match. Well, I could say he's Roscommon born, also born in Brooklyn, if I'm not mistaken. He's a liquor show, all sorts, as John Coughlin.
That's
but
it,
Cork is where he's known, and so it's a matchup of a matchup. How are you approaching that game with the perceived, and I'm putting this in inverted commas, against one of the supposed big three?
Yeah, look, it's always good to see John. He's a good lad. I spoke to him a good few times, and he always puts out a decent team, like, and you can see that from his record, So it's going to be a tough game, and obviously, Galway are a good side. They've had some good results so far this season, and they're up there competing. But yeah, like, we have to trust in our team as well, and go out and give it a performance. And again, look, we've played a lot of teams now this season, and there's no reason why we can't be competing. And like, again, small things about the learning, as I spoke about, but as I said, hopefully there's a time it all comes together, and we'll be going into each game prepared, like we normally do, and ready for anything that comes our way. But, like, again, I would say to our guys, believe in your ability. We get the work rate. We ask for, to the work rate and 100% on the pitch. Like, and as I said, the Athlone game, to win 3-2 away and score, 2 goals late on, showed the kind of fitness and the will of our guys willing to win. And just take that, and believe in the ability, and take your chances, and we should get the ball rolling.
as we saw last night with Stephen Kenny's Ireland. Listen, Darren, thank you very much for your time. I know that you've got training this evening, so thanks very much for taking time to speak to us, and hopefully we'll speak to you later on the season, if God willing.
Yeah, no, great. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it and enjoyed the chat.
Thanks very much. And thanks very much to Darren Murphy of Cobh Ramblers. Our next guest is Dundalk FC captain Brian Gartland, who joins us. Brian, you're very welcome to the programme.
How's things, Kieran? Thanks for having me.
Thanks very much. Brian, we're going to get straight into it. First and foremost, how have you found the return after what's been a very difficult period after tearing your ACL last season against Shamrock Rovers? How have you found the recovery and finally getting back onto the pitch?
Yeah, it's a long journey. It's not nice, and it's more a mental challenge than anything. And then enjoy it. Like, well, you enjoy bits of it. It's hard work. You just have to get on with it. It is what it is. And but you have good days and bad days, and you just have to keep plowing on through the bad days or the bad weeks, you know. And it's like I said, it's been up and down the whole time. I've had a few curveballs thrown at me on the way and that. But it's the same for everyone that goes through a long-term injury like that. And then, returned and played against Harps there. It's probably a month ago or so. And unfortunately, I got COVID then for the first time. A day or two later, I tested positive. So that knocked me back a bit. What was a 10-day isolate? But fairly hit me hard. It floored me a bit. So building up the fitness again after that. And it's just another little setback. But back in training, feels strong. Just needs, I suppose, get going, get a run of matches and get going. But our lads are keeping it tight at the back. I think there's only two penalties conceded in the last 5 games. So I've got to bide my time and wait for maybe a slip up or a mishap to get in.
You were appointed captain by Stephen O'Donnell. It's a massive vote of confidence for you after everything that has gone on. That's, you know, he not only are you coming back as a player, but you're coming back as captain of the club.
Yeah, we have, I suppose, like a leadership group, you know, and there's a few of us in it that was collectively, you know, do that job sort of thing. But there's no getting away from, you know, if I'm on the pitch, I've the armband, and to me it means the world. It's a massive honour. It's a massive club. I think the gaffer said before, people don't realise until you're at the club just how big of a draw and how big the club is and what it means to the town and the people around. And like, I suppose the first time we ever won something, you know, at the club, you know, it ingrained that in us. It's unforgettable and that sort of feeling. So the honour is it's massive. Listen, it's an added bonus, but listen, I need to get back on the pitch and doing my job first and foremost. Being competitive that way and helping the team that way, and everything or anything extra I could add, you know, as you know, one of the more experienced players, then you know, I'm glad if I can have an effect.
Just speaking of Stephen O'Donnell, he's now back as the head coach manager at the club. Would you have seen when you played with him during that this was obviously going to be a natural transition for him to turn into a manager? And I think that him coming back to the club has kind of started a rejuvenation of the place, as you can see at the moment.
Yeah, listen, I think we used to do a thing one year in the programme, and there was a lot of questions, and all of us did it, and each week a player would say, it's who's most likely to be a manager, you know, after they stopped playing was one of the questions. And I think unanimously everyone put the gaffer, you know. So you could see that's just the way he was on the pitch. He controlled the game, and you know, he was a leader on the pitch, so he knows the game inside out, and he absolutely loves the game. So you could see that. But you know, he's taken it straight away and won trophies, you know, win the cup last year and that sort of thing. So it's proven sort of already. So you would have seen him likely to go into a role like that after.
Just in relation to, I understand that this season is very much about you getting back on the pitch and back playing, but is there any, like at one stage it was nearly a case that every time there was a corner taken, your head was nearly on it. Is there any kind of targets or anything that you've set for this season for yourself, or is it just getting back onto that pitch and just falling in love with that game again after being out for so long?
Yeah, no, like it's not just about getting back onto the pitch and playing. Like it's not just about showing up and being a footballer, or turning up and playing a game. Like I'm only coming back to win. I'm only coming back to compete. So everything that was before, and I suppose absence makes the heart grow stronger as such. Like the hunger intensifies because you've been away from it that long, and there's more questions. I'm older, and I had obviously career-threatening injury. So most people are saying you're not coming back, and especially at your age and different things. So it's there's added incentives to prove people wrong, and it's just like I said, there's a hunger and desire there, and if there wasn't, I wouldn't be back. I wouldn't be back just to turn up and just to say, oh, the goal is to get back playing. The goal is to be what I've always been, and compete and try to help my team win stuff.
Something that is a very rare thing, but it's something that you have done with Mark McCadden, is that next month you're releasing a book. A lot of people would have waited until they finished, but I think owing to the unbelievable career that you have since you've arrived at Dundalk, I know you've spoken about that. I won't get into it because I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you did have those kind of, how would you say, those sliding doors moments before you joined Dundalk, and it was important to document what has been probably just the most incredible period of, I know, speaking as a Dundalk fan, of our time, but I don't know how it was for you as players. I can only imagine we're only feeling 10% of what you guys were feeling.
Yeah, no, I won't say it was important for me to document it or anything like that. Liam Hayes and Hero Books approached me a couple of years ago, and maybe they thought I was retiring then as well. And like a lot of people, and they asked me to do the autobiography, and like most sort of League of Ireland footballers, I kind of just said, no, it's not done in League of Ireland, and sure, who'd read it, and this and that, and you're not gonna, like, it's not for the money, let me tell you that anyway, from what the person gets, sort of thing. But he asked me to meet him, and I said, yeah, listen, I'll meet him. I'll always meet anyone and hear them out. And he sold it to me a different way, and he said, listen, you get to tell your story, and for after football, it's one of the things stuck in my head. He said it's the best CV you can have. And obviously I'm obviously thinking about career after football and getting into that thing and that sort of stage, and I thought to myself, well, why not? Like, I was sort of saying, League of Ireland players don't do this, and you're putting your head out there for a bit of stick, and people, it's just a stick to beat you with different stuff and that. So I just said, I turned around and turned the opinion around and just said, sure, why not? Let's give it a whack now. It was meant to be out about a year or a year and a half ago, but due to lockdowns and various things, and I suppose the injury and stuff, it just got put back, and then meant to be out at the start of last November, and it was nearly all ready to go, but just felt it was going to be missing something. If it came out last November, it was nearly missing last year. And it was a bit rushed, and it was just better to wait. So listen, it doesn't really matter when it comes out. If people are going to read it or buy it, they will, sort of thing. And so it's very very nervous. It's exciting times, but nervous as well with it coming out, because when I said I'd do it as well, I said, listen, I wanted to be quite honest. If I'm going to say it, I'll be honest, open about my life and different stuff. And some people will care, some people won't, sort of thing. So, but that has me a little bit nervous being so open. And again, like, yeah, I'm still playing, but to me, I don't really see a massive difference. Yeah, it's probably a stick to people, for people to beat me with while I'm still playing, but what difference does it make? Like, it's not going to take my focus off anything I'm doing at the moment. It's all done, dusted, sort of thing. Yeah, I'll have to do a bit of media and stuff on it and that sort of thing. But you know, I've always had businesses and different stuff while I'm playing. That's the nature of League of Ireland. You know, I've had to have other stuff to survive and create a livelihood. So I'm looking forward to it. But like I said, there, quite a little bit of anxiousness or
a bit of anxiety. Just to follow up on something that you said, I hope you don't mind me asking, did you think, owing with all the success that you had, like, we're very much aware of how difficult of a year it was last year. Was that important to include both on and off the pitch of what was going on?
Yeah. Listen, I probably would have wanted, if I had my own way, I'm very critical of myself at times and that. And it's not being, I suppose, trying to be overcritical or negative. It's just being realistic. Things are what they are.
Yeah.
You know, and there's no point in papering over cracks and not telling them as they are. You talk about the good times, you got to talk about the bad times, you know. But at the same time, there's only so much you can say when it comes to stuff like this. And the whole journey of the book actually has been quite therapeutic. It's nearly like going to a counsellor or therapy. You know, you're sort of reliving things, and you know, you're thinking from your point of view. And then as time goes by, you know, you're, when I'm angry about stuff or stuff that really, you know what I mean, annoyed me, a year later it mightn't be so much. I was like, don't bother saying that, or don't bother saying this, and there's good reason for it as well, you know. But then some stuff has to be said, this sort of thing. So, it was important that, you know, I had the last year and kind of, listen, it's only my opinion. It's only my opinion, maybe where we could have done things a bit better, or where the club started to go, you know, on a little bit of a downslope. But football is all about opinions, and hindsight is great. So, you know, I'm well aware. So I didn't want to go, you know, too much into it in terms of that, because you only know the outcome of something once it's happened. You know, your opinion could be brilliant in theory, and if we did this and we did that. But I suppose to answer your question, it was important to me to have, you know, to have the last sort of chapter in it of what I went through. Plus, there was a lot of stuff off the field that was, you know, not to do with the club, just to do with myself. And the injury and that, like I said, there's a good few ups and downs that were life changing for me as such. So it was important to tell those stories and that in it as well.
Finally, Brian, just to wrap things up, I know that a lot of people will talk about the things in the book. If there was one moment during your career at Dundalk, like, I know you've moved to the town, I know that you've integrated yourself in a street that I know very well, and my mother grew up across the road from you. But like, is there one moment that stands out as, that's my Brian Gartland moment?
Listen,
sorry for putting you on the spot.
No, you're all right. Like, I've been incredibly lucky with, you know, it's had so much runners up before I went there, and I've been incredibly lucky that I managed to be part of, you know, that club, that team, the town at that time, and experience the highs of Europe and cup finals and everything there is. But I suppose the first feeling is hard to forget, and it's mainly probably because we've had so many experiences. Maybe you take them for granted, and like I said, the book is brilliant for that, because I suppose a big driving factor behind Dundalk all those years was we never lamented on any success. We celebrate. We made sure we celebrated everything, but we were always relentless for more. And it was driven by Stephen Kenny. And so you'd celebrate it, and listen, the celebrations might be fairly heavy, but once they're done, like, that's that done. That's that league. That's that trophy. That's that. Even with Europe and the 2016 campaign, that's that's that done. Let's do it again. You know, let's do better. Yeah. And that was always the way. So the book, I always said, listen, I'll reflect on everything on my career when I finish, because I didn't want to lose that. But I suppose because of the book and the year out with the injury, it allowed me to reflect and appreciate, I suppose, what I've been so lucky to be part of, while keeping that hunger and that sort of strive to do more, you know, to win more. And it's made me appreciate where we are now with the club. Yeah. I suppose the best way of putting it is that, answer your question, the Cork final, you know, to win the league. Sorry, I'm going off track there.
You're okay.
That's like scoring that night, and we win the league at home. Winner takes all against your rivals, your first league title, and close first league title, and that. The feelings, the emotion, the everything, your family, your friends, you're at home, your whole town there, everything. That feeling is just. Now listen, there's loads more that you have that, but that was just beautiful. But going back to now, the club's in a different thing. It's at a rebuild, you know, as such. It's a few steps back, but if you could be part of the club now,
those things
that goes on now, and we'd be successful, that would nearly top it again.
Yeah.
Because we've come back, we've regressed. If we could get the club, you know, if you could be part of this journey and build something special again, like, it would be sweet. And that's why I'm back. That's why I want to keep playing. And that's that hunger there. It's not just about turning up. It's about, listen, I might be gone in a couple of years and the club goes and wins the league, but if I'm part of it now and starting this journey, that you know, that feeling of the club being back where we feel it belongs, you know.
Yeah.
I suppose us at Dundalk think, and winning another title, an FA Cup, and that. I think that feeling could be back there with it, up with that first one, because after the last couple of years, it's just, you know, it would be the effect.
Listen, Brian, thank you very, very much for your time. I really, really appreciate it. I look forward to reading the book. I've already got it booked when I'm going to read it, and I'll speak to you very, very soon. But thanks very much for your time this evening.
Thanks, Kieran. I'll see you soon.
See you soon.
Take care. Bye.
And now we're going to have a look at this weekend's fixtures, and coming back into us is Diarmuid Kearney. Diarmuid, thanks very much. We've got a packed couple of days over the course of the weekend. We'll start with Friday night's fixtures starting. Bohemians are at home to Derry City, Dundalk at home to UCD, Sligo Rovers and Shelbourne, St Patrick's Athletic and Drogheda United, while Finn Harps play Shamrock Rovers. They're all the Premier Division fixtures. Which one of those games, Diarmuid, really stands out to you as the game of the weekend?
I suppose in terms of title charge, Finn Harps and Shamrock Rovers could be an interesting game, because I suppose Finn Harps will want to make Finn Park a fortress this year should they want to stay up. With Shamrock Rovers, they've only got 2 wins in their last 5 games, a defeat in between. I think they need to try and kickstart their season back again. They're not where they want to be. They want to be toward the top of the table, not in 4th position. Harps, of course, got a win fairly recently as well, so they'll be looking to continue that. And who else against the likes of Shamrock Rovers? Bohemians and Derry could be another interesting game as well, should Derry want to continue their charge toward the top of the table. Bows, again, similar to Shamrock Rovers, their inner city rivals, not where they want to be in the table either. They want to be contesting the title, but when you're looking at it, Sligo want to keep their record alive as well against Shelbourne. All the games this weekend definitely are interesting, but I suppose it's going to be interesting to see of the games that we have on Friday night, which one of them springs the most action in terms of the points. But definitely keeping an eye on Bows and Derry and the game between Finn Harps and Shamrock Rovers for sure.
There's no way that UCD could get anything off Dundalk.
I don't see it, especially going to Oriel Park. It's a place where Dundalk can make it a fortress. UCD not looking sharp so far in the early stages of the season. They haven't really gotten their form alive. Harps look likely that if they are to consider the thoughts of relegation, it's definitely the playoffs that they'll be looking at. I don't think they're going to go straight down. I think UCD aren't going to have much fun toward the rest of the season, coming up against teams like the likes of Dundalk now on Friday night, who are challenging toward the top of the table. And Dundalk will want a result, and when you're coming home, when you're playing at home against a team like UCD, the way they are in the league, they are bottom of the table. You have to get the 3 points. I'm pretty sure Dundalk are expecting to take home 3 points this Friday night. So I can't see Dundalk or can't see UCD getting anything from the game, unfortunately.
In relation to the first division, Athlone Town are at home to Bray Wanderers, Galway United and Cobh, Waterford versus Longford Town, and Wexford are at home to Cork City. Wexford Cork City seems to stand out to me in those fixtures, but Waterford and Longford Town is another tasty one.
Yeah, for me, it's definitely the battle between Waterford and Longford. I suppose Longford haven't had the most games to play this season. They're looking sharp. Waterford, of course, defeat last Friday night against Treaty, not a result they wanted, to go to Limerick and to lose, especially with how Cork got on the week prior. Treaty weren't looking like a great outfit, and that would have been a game that they could have got to get an extra 3 points when you're challenging against the likes of Waterford and Cork toward the top of the table. But credit to Longford, they've looked sharp so far. Can they get the 3 points against Waterford this weekend? It's going to be an interesting tie there. Wexford, of course, have been kind of the team that have been the surprise package in the first division. Now, the result last Friday night has seen them fall out of the playoff spots. Of course, Treaty got a win last Friday, so they're up there, as are Longford with their results. So it's a double header this weekend for Athlone as well, and it's be interesting to see. But I can still see Cork coming out of Wexford with a win. Now, they will want to continue this form. I know Galway are playing Friday night as well, but they have the game in hand. They're only 3 points behind in the table. It'll be interesting to call it, but definitely the game that you called out there, Wexford and Cork, definitely does look like a tasty fixture. But Longford against Waterford could be another one of those games this weekend.
And Treaty versus Athlone Town on Monday, it's the bottom of the kind of the two. Both teams will be looking for points big time in that fixture. Yeah,
Athlone haven't had a win so far this season. Treaty, of course, picked up the win last week. That got them up into the playoff spots, and if they got a big 3 points in that game, and the likes of Longford and Waterford shared the points, and Wexford got something off Cork, or it depends on what way the results go. You could see them go up the table. Galway will be looking for points, because if they can get to that level where they're near enough to Cork and can get the game in hand and get the 3 points, we could see the first division has been sensational to watch this year. Another big week of it last week, as I mentioned. It's been a phenomenal season so far in the first division. I think we're going to get another week of it this week, and I know it's on April Fool's Day. All the fixtures are on this Friday night, but I don't think any of the teams want to be the fool to slip up this weekend. So hopefully, the teams that are in the position to go toward the top of the table will want to get those results. But anything can happen. But I don't think we'll see a massive shock this week. Maybe Longford and Waterford might end up being a draw. We've seen them take Cork to Bishopstown, and it was the case of it was a nil, or when they took them to Longford, and it was a 0-0 draw. So anything is possible.
Thanks very much, Diarmuid, and we look forward to the fixtures and seeing you on Friday evening and during the course of the weekend for Around the Grounds.
Perfect, Kieran. Thanks for having me on again this week.